Hi, my name is James and I'd like to share with you a little video diary of my attempts to withdraw from an antidepressant drug using tapering strips. And before we start, I'd just like to say that people's experiences of coming off antidepressant drugs are very, very different. So nothing I say here should be construed as medical advice, and neither am I saying you should follow my example. It's very, very much an individual choice. So a bit of background about me. I started an antidepressant in 2012, and then after a couple of years or so I decided that I wanted to stop. So I got my doctor's advice, but unfortunately I tried to come off far too quickly and I suffered some awful withdrawal symptoms that got so bad that I had to reinstate the drug. And then in 2017 I decided that I was ready to try and come off again, so this time I wanted to do it much more carefully and much more gradually, so I started using a liquid form to reduce slowly over time. But now, most recently, I've got to a stage where my dosage is becoming so low that it's actually getting difficult to precisely measure the liquid. So I made the decision to move on to something called tapering strips. So to explain a little bit about tapering strips, they've been developed in the Netherlands and they allow someone to gradually and precisely reduce the dosage of their psychotropic drugs over time. And they're available not just for antidepressants but also for benzodiazepines, for neuroleptics and mood stabilizers and some other classes of drugs too. And here's the web address should you want to know more about them. So what I intend to do is start off with something called a stabilization strip. And a stabilization strip provides a fixed dosage of the tablet over a 28-day period. So I have a tapering strip here, and you can see there's a daily pouch with a single tablet in, and each one of those tablets is 5 milligrams, so there's no reduction at all. And then what I'll do is I'll move on to a reducing tapering strip. So this next one here reduces from 5 milligrams to 2.5 milligrams over a 28-day period. So you can see for the first few days here there's a single tablet. When we get to day 4 there are 3 tablets. And the reason for that is that we've reduced here from 5 milligrams to 4.5 milligrams, and that's made up with two milligram tablets and a 0.5 milligram tablet. That's how tapering strips work. It's a bit like loose change in your pocket to make up different denominations of money. So then a few days later you can see in this pouch there are just 2 tablets, and that's because we've now reduced to 4 milligrams, which is 2 times 2 milligram tablets. So that's the plan that I intend to follow, and I intend to post periodic updates as I go through the process. So thank you for watching. So I wanted to make a little quick update on my tapering journey, and I recently made the transfer from liquid to the tablets in tapering strips. And honestly, that transfer was a bit easier than I was expecting it to be. When I originally transferred the other way from tablets that I've been taking for many years onto the liquid, I was bedridden with intense headaches and blurred vision for about 4 days. So I was anticipating a difficult time going the other way, but that proved to not be the case actually. So I'm now established on 5 milligram tablets from the tapering strips, and in a few days I'll start my reduction, which will go from 5 milligrams to 2.5 milligrams over 28 days, and I'll post updates as I go through that. Hi, so another little update because I'm now 2 weeks into my first reducing tapering strip, and so far the effects have been unpleasant but not unbearable. So in the last 2 weeks I've reduced from 5 milligrams to 3.5 milligrams, and you can see where I am on this little chart. The main issues have been fatigue, dizziness, mental fog, tinnitus and nausea. Although these effects haven't been constant, they've tended to peak just after I've made a reduction. And I've been managing this by resting often and by eating very little when the nausea is very bad. And so in the next 2 weeks I'll carry on with my reductions until I get to 2.5 milligrams. And once I'm at 2.5 I've then got a choice. I can pause for a time there, or I can just continue with the next tapering strip. Hi, so another little update from me as I continue my tapering journey, and I did elect to pause and stay at 2.5 milligrams for a 14-day period. And the point of this really was to give my body a bit of a break before doing the final part of the reduction. So this has lengthened the overall process to 84 days to come down from 5 milligrams, but After 7 years of exposure to mirtazapine, I just feel the need to be as cautious as I can be. So I just started on the next, and what will be the final tapering strip hopefully, and that will get me from 2.5 milligrams down to 0 over a 28-day period, and I'll post another update again as I'm towards the end of that. Hi, so another little update from me, and what I'm holding here is hopefully my last ever tablet of mirtazapine, and this is a 0.5 milligram tablet. So just as a reminder, I've been taking mirtazapine for 2,798 days, that's around 7 years, 8 months, and I've taken the last 878 days to come off, and the last 84 days of that I've been using tapering strips to reduce as slowly as I can. And this is also the third attempt that I've made overall to come off. I've failed to come off on 2 previous occasions. And so, of course, I do have mixed feelings about taking the last tablet. I am looking forward to not having to depend or rely on the tablets each day, but I am concerned about post-withdrawal difficulties. So what I'll do is I'll take the last tablet and then I'll leave it for a week or so and then post another further update on how I'm doing. So thank you so much for watching so far. Hi, so another little update from me, and probably the last update, at least for some time anyway. So I'm now a week out from taking my final tablet, the final tablet in the tapering strip, and given that mirtazapine has quite a long half-life, then a week or so means the levels of the drug in my system are close to negligible now. And what I can say is that I haven't noticed any new symptoms or effects yet. What I've found is that there's been an intensification in some of the issues that I was dealing with previously. So the insomnia and the nausea particularly have got a bit worse, but I think that's to be expected. And really those aren't constant, they vary. On the other hand, I think my thinking is a bit clearer and I'm experiencing less sedation and less brain fog. So I do want to talk a little bit about the experience of using the tapering strips themselves. And what I feel is using them actually took a great deal of the anxiety out of the process of withdrawing. So when I was relying on my liquid, I was very concerned about trying to achieve the precise dose and exactly when I should reduce. With the tapering strips, I just took each daily allocation and it was as simple as it could possibly be. Yes, of course, I was still concerned about the withdrawal effects, but the overall worry I think was reduced because the process was so much easier to follow. And while I was using the tapering strips, it did strike me that using liquid forms or pill cutting would actually be impossible for some people. So, for example, the elderly or those with limited vision. So, for those people and others, the simplicity of using tapering strips could well be the only practical method they could use to withdraw safely. I also believe that the dosage precision of the tapering strips resulted in more stable levels of the drug in my body. Again, when I was using the liquid, especially as the dosage was getting below 5 milligrams, there could be considerable error in my measuring, and over time those errors became a bigger proportion of my dose as I reduced, so I was having to tolerate these daily fluctuations. Obviously, because the tablets in tapering strips are pharmaceutically compounded, that means that they can be relied on to be accurate, and that removes the variation in using a liquid or pill cutting. And I think this precision meant that I spent less time dealing with those daily fluctuations and I was actually able to then better tolerate the main dosage reductions. And also, of course, I was able to adopt a flexible approach to my tapering that put me in control, and I did pause during the process to allow me some recovery time before I made the final reductions. And there are many situations in life that might cause someone to have to adapt their tapering plan, and the availability of fixed dosage tablets means that that's completely possible. So of course I am concerned about what the future may hold because withdrawal and post-withdrawal effects can be so difficult to predict. But what I can say is using the tapering strips made the process really easy and took much of the anxiety out of the process of reducing. So I really do want to thank Dr. Peter Groot, Dr. Paul Harder and all at the Rainbow Pharmacy in the Netherlands, because if it weren't for tapering strips, I don't think I'd have got to the end of this process, or if I did, it wouldn't have been without great difficulty. And I really hope we can make this approach available worldwide, because not only is it evidence-based, it's a compassionate and ethical way to respond to someone who's come to the end of treatment and decided they want to stop. And so thank you so much for bearing with me while I described my tapering journey. And if you are someone yourself considering tapering off your psychotropics, then however you choose to do it, I wish you well.